it back. Most people think that they're in love, but they're actually just attached. And that's why so many relationships feel heavy, suffocating, and draining. Love gives you freedom, but attachment chains you down. Right? Love says, I want the best for you, while attachment screams, don't you dare leave me. Back. The difference between the two will decide whether your relationship helps you grow or slowly destroys you. Love is often mistaken for attachment because both carry strong emotions. Back. But the foundation behind them is completely different. Love is born from abundance, while attachment is rooted in scarcity. When you love someone, your concern is not about what you can take, but about what you can give. Love does not keep score. It does not measure returns. It simply offers without demand. Attachment, on the other hand, clings tightly, terrified of loss, constantly worried about what might be taken away. The energy of love is expansive. It wants to see the other person thrive, even if that growth leads them away from you. Attachment feels like possession. It suffocates rather than supports. Back, because its survival depends on control. In love, you want the best for the other person regardless of circumstances. In attachment, you want to keep the person because you fear what life looks like without them. Back. That is the critical difference. When someone is in love, they can admire and celebrate another person's freedom. They see independence not as a threat, but as a strength that adds value to the relationship. Back. Love is not about tethering someone to your side, but encouraging them to explore their potential. When you love, you build an environment where both can breathe, expand, and grow without limits. Back. Attachment is terrified of independence because it mistakes space for abandonment. It convinces you that distance equals loss, when in reality, love flourishes in trust and respect. Attachment becomes suffocating, needy, back, and desperate for reassurance. Love does not need to hold tight because it knows that freedom is part of real commitment. To give is to trust, and to trust is to love. To keep is to control, and to control is to weaken. Consider how giving feels when it comes from love. It's never transactional, never dependent on receiving something back, because love finds joy in the act of giving itself. You give your time, your patience back, your energy, and your presence because it's aligned with who you are. Love doesn't say, I'll give if you stay. It says, I'll give because it's who I choose to be. Attachment, however, back, is filled with hidden contracts that nobody signs but everyone feels. I'll give if you give back. I'll stay if you make me feel secure. I'll love if you don't leave. This is not giving. It's bargaining. Back. And bargaining disguised as love always leads to disappointment. True giving is rooted in love, not in the fear of loss. Attachment makes you question if the gift is enough, while love never questions at all. The emotional weight between love and attachment is also distinct. Love feels light, empowering, and energizing, as though it expands your life and your possibilities. You walk into it and feel stronger, calmer, back, and more centered in who you are. Attachment feels heavy, anxious, and consuming because its energy comes from the fear of losing. Love elevates your spirit, while attachment drains it. When you're in love, back, you don't feel the need to control outcomes. You trust the bond, the connection, and the process. When you're attached, every little shift feels like a threat. Every silence feels like rejection. Back, and every distance feels like betrayal. Love brings peace. Attachment brings restlessness. One gives you wings, the other clips them. One gives you courage, the other creates insecurity. The choice between the two changes how you live every relationship. Love teaches generosity, but not the kind that depletes you. It teaches generous strength. When you love, you give without losing yourself back, because love encourages balance and boundaries. It teaches you that your self-worth doesn't depend on someone else's presence. Attachment convinces you that without them, you are incomplete back. And that illusion keeps you tied to people who may not even be good for you. Love sees the truth and still chooses to give, because giving is an expression of abundance. Attachment hides from the truth because it cannot handle the fear of loss. Love looks outward with clarity. Attachment looks inward with desperation. One allows growth, the other resists it. The power of giving comes from love's strength, not attachment's fear. To give is courageous, to cling is cowardly. The nature of giving also determines the quality of connection. In love, giving is sustainable. It builds trust, and it deepens connection without creating dependency. When you give from love, the other person feels supported but not controlled, valued but not owned. Attachment's version of giving is often conditional smothering or laced with expectations. It's the kind of giving that keeps track of who owes what, as though the relationship were a debt sheet. Love is generous. Attachment is transactional. When people sense that your giving comes from love, they relax, they open up, and they feel safe to be themselves. When they sense that your giving comes from attachment, they feel pressure. They feel burdened, and they pull away. One giving expands intimacy, the other destroys it. Love multiplies what it gives, attachment subtracts. it back. It's easy to confuse the two because both love and attachment involve closeness and deep emotions. But the simplest way to separate them is to ask, is this about them or is this about me? Back. Love focuses on the other person. It wants to give, uplift, and empower. Attachment focuses on itself. It wants to keep, possess, and control. Love says, I want you to be happy, while attachment says, I want you to make me happy. Love releases because it trusts, attachment clings because it fears. When your actions are rooted in giving, they nurture freedom. When your actions are rooted in keeping, they nurture insecurity. The heart knows the difference, but the mind often confuses the two. That confusion determines whether your relationship grows or collapses. Giving in love requires courage because it accepts uncertainty. There is no guarantee that giving will always be returned, but love doesn't need that guarantee. It thrives on choice, on intention, and on trust in the value of giving itself. Attachment cannot handle uncertainty, so it grasps tightly, trying to lock down outcomes. Back. It sees love as something fragile to be guarded rather than something strong to be expressed. Love knows that freedom is the ultimate expression of care, while attachment thinks control is the only way to protect. Love trusts that even if things change, the act of giving remains meaningful. Attachment doesn't value the act, it only values the return. Giving in love is an act of strength, back, while keeping in attachment is an act of fear. And fear is never the foundation of something lasting. Think about relationships where one person loves and the other clings. The giver often feels uplifted, back, while the keeper often feels drained because their energy comes from different sources. One gives energy, the other consumes it. Love produces reciprocity naturally because true giving inspires more giving. Attachment tries to force reciprocity, demanding loyalty and constant reassurance. That forced demand often pushes people away, while real love naturally draws people closer. It back. The one who loves without fear becomes magnetic, while the one who clings out of fear becomes repellent. Giving is powerful because it inspires freedom, while keeping is weak because it suffocates. Back. This is why love creates bonds that last, while attachment creates ties that eventually break. Love gives space, attachment steals it. Love is expansive, it doesn't shrink in the face of challenge. When things get hard, love asks, what can I contribute to the situation? It looks for solutions, support, and actions that bring strength. Attachment, when tested, panics and asks, what am I going to lose? Its focus is not on the relationship, but on self-preservation. Love is proactive, attachment is reactive. Love builds resilience, attachment builds fragility. In love, back, you can handle distance because trust makes the bond strong. In attachment, distance feels unbearable because the bond relies on constant proximity. Giving keeps the bond alive across miles, while keeping tries to trap it within reach. One thrives under freedom, the other dies under pressure. Love always seeks to expand, attachment always seeks to confine. Love is like fertile soil. It creates space for growth, expansion, and evolution. When two people share genuine love, they do not hold each other back, but instead push each other forward. Every interaction becomes a chance to learn, to improve, back, and to sharpen one another's edges. Love celebrates transformation even when it means outgrowing old patterns or habits. Attachment fears transformation because it threatens the stability it craves. When you love, back, you see growth as an investment in both yourself and the other person. When you're attached, you see growth as a risk of losing the familiar. Love thrives on challenges because it knows progress strengthens the bond. Attachment avoids challenges because it fears they will weaken the bond. One creates evolution, the other creates decay. Growth in love comes from encouragement and support. Love says, back, I want to see you become everything you're capable of, and then stands behind you as you pursue it. It doesn't feel threatened by success, independence, or ambition. Instead, get back. It sees those qualities as fuel for deeper connection. Attachment resists when the other person grows because growth means change and change threatens comfort. Attachment says, don't outgrow me. Don't leave me behind. This creates tension, resentment, and eventually suffocation. Love never fears being outgrown because it knows true connection adapts with time. Attachment fears being abandoned, back, so it holds tightly to what is. Love builds, attachment restricts. One makes you stronger, the other keeps you stuck. Love expands the definition of partnership, while attachment shrinks it. In love, back, both people become teammates, working together toward a bigger vision that stretches beyond the relationship itself. They encourage dreams, set goals, and celebrate milestones with genuine excitement. Love asks, back, how can we both grow from this? Attachment asks, how can I make sure nothing changes? Attachment is afraid of disruption, so it resists growth opportunities, even if they would benefit both people. Love sees success as something to be shared. Attachment sees success as something to be feared if it shifts the balance. One fuels collaboration, the other breeds competition. Love wants to elevate, attachment wants to contain. Growth requires change, and love embraces change without resistance. Love understands that people are not meant to stay the same forever. Back welcomes evolution as a natural part of life and relationships. Love says, you are allowed to change and I will grow alongside you. Attachment panics at change because it equates it with instability. Back, it wants predictability, even if that predictability means staying stuck in unhealthy cycles. Attachment says, stay who you are so I don't lose what I know. But life does not stop, and neither should people. Back, love knows this truth and thrives in it. Attachment denies this truth and suffers because of it. Love is dynamic, attachment is static. When you are in love, you want to learn, not just about the other person, back, but about yourself. Love opens your eyes to your flaws, your patterns, and your blind spots. It motivates you to grow because you want to show up as the best version of yourself. It doesn't mean perfection, back, but it does mean progress. Attachment does not push you to improve. It wants you to stay comfortable and unchallenged. It whispers, don't rock the boat. It back. Don't risk changing the balance. Love gives you the courage to face discomfort and use it as fuel. Attachment gives you excuses to avoid growth, keeping you stagnant. Love stretches you, attachment traps you. Think about how growth feels in a loving connection. You feel challenged, but in the best way. You feel supported even when it's hard. You feel inspired to dream bigger and work harder. Back. Not out of pressure, but out of shared vision. Growth in love is about mutual uplift. It's about creating something greater than the sum of its parts. Attachment doesn't create this energy. It makes you feel stuck, drained, and guilty for wanting more. Attachment demands comfort over progress, safety over expansion. Love asks you to rise. Attachment begs you to stay still. One brings out the best, the other prevents it. Back, one feels like possibility, the other feels like limitation. Love thrives on curiosity, on asking questions, on seeking to understand. Back, it is always open to learning new layers of the other person and new depths of the connection. This curiosity sparks growth because it prevents the relationship from becoming stale. Attachment, however, back, I trust curiosity because it might expose truths it doesn't want to face. It avoids tough conversations, avoids new challenges, and avoids anything that disrupts its illusion of safety. Love says, back. Let's explore this together. Attachment says, let's not talk about it. Love grows through openness, while attachment shrinks through avoidance. One builds resilience, the other builds fragility. In love, growth is mutual and balanced. Both people contribute to each other's development, creating a cycle of continuous improvement. Love is a partnership where both are students and both are teachers. Back, each challenge becomes an opportunity to learn, not a threat to stability. Attachment doesn't operate this way. It is one-sided, often draining the energy of one person to feed the insecurity of the other. Back, attachment doesn't want equality, it wants control. It doesn't want progress, it wants preservation. Love thrives in balance, where both give and both grow. Attachment thrives in imbalance, where one clings and the other compromises. That imbalance always leads to collapse. Growth in love also shows up in how you handle adversity. Love sees obstacles as chances to build resilience together. Back, it treats problems as opportunities to strengthen the bond and learn new skills. Love asks, what can we create from this challenge? Attachment, however, sees obstacles as threats to stability. It collapses under pressure because it never wanted change in the first place. Attachment says, if this gets hard, I might lose everything. This creates panic, blame, and resistance. Love uses pressure as fuel. Back, while attachment breaks under it. Love adapts, attachment resists. That's why love grows stronger through storms, while attachment weakens in them. Love creates growth by building confidence and trust. Back, it reassures you that you are safe enough to take risks, to pursue dreams, and to expand your life. Love's foundation is security, and security is what gives you courage to grow. Attachment cannot provide this security, back, because it is rooted in fear. Instead, it drains confidence, making you doubt yourself and your abilities. Attachment makes you feel smaller, weaker, and dependent. Love makes you feel stronger, bolder, and capable. Love expands what is possible while attachment shrinks it. Growth becomes inevitable in love, while stagnation becomes guaranteed in attachment. Love is not something that happens by accident. Back. It is a conscious decision made over and over again. Love is built through intention, effort, and deliberate action, not just fleeting emotions. It is easy to confuse love with the rush of feelings that come when everything feels new and exciting. But those feelings are temporary while love sustains itself through choice. Attachment, on the other hand, does not involve decision. It is a reflex. It emerges out of fear, insecurity, or a need for comfort, and it doesn't ask for permission. Love requires awareness and responsibility. Attachment thrives in instinct and reaction. One is about commitment, the other about dependency. Love chooses, attachment clings. When you truly love, you don't just rely on emotions, you rely on values and principles. Love asks you to show up consistently, even when it is inconvenient or uncomfortable. It is about making the daily decision to invest in another person's well-being, growth, and happiness. Attachment doesn't work this way. It just reacts to whatever feeling arises in the moment. Back, it grabs hold because it's afraid, not because it has chosen with clarity. Love is proactive while attachment is impulsive. Love sees the bigger picture while attachment is blinded by the immediate need for comfort. Choice makes love strong. Reaction makes attachment unstable. One grows over time, the other cracks under pressure. Love also requires discipline because choice means commitment to action, not just feeling. Back, when challenges appear, love chooses patience instead of frustration, listening instead of shutting down, effort instead of withdrawal. Attachment doesn't practice discipline. It simply reacts to discomfort. If it feels threatened, back. It panics. If it feels ignored, it demands. Attachment is like a reflex with no thought behind it, while love is deliberate, thoughtful, and steady. This is why love builds resilience, back, while attachment remains fragile. The one who chooses learns to endure. The one who reacts only survives until the next trigger. Choice stabilizes, reaction destabilizes. Love grounds you, attachment shakes you. Back, the difference becomes clear in how each responds to conflict. Love chooses to work through difficulties, to communicate with honesty, and to seek solutions rather than blame. That requires effort and maturity to choose kindness when anger feels easier. Attachment reacts in opposite way. It avoids attacks or controls in response to fear. It cannot pause long enough to reflect, back, because reaction is its nature. Love takes responsibility for its role in challenges, while attachment points fingers to protect itself. Love asks, how do we grow through this? Attachment asks, back, how do I protect what I don't want to lose? One brings resolution, the other brings chaos. Another distinction lies in how both influence freedom. Back, love chooses to respect boundaries because it understands that individuality matters. It requires awareness to continuously honor the other person's independence. Attachment reacts to boundaries with fear, seeing them as rejection or abandonment. It cannot handle space because it never consciously chose to trust. It only reacted to closeness. Love makes the daily choice to honor trust and freedom, back, knowing that control suffocates. Attachment reacts by grasping tighter, creating tension and resentment. One builds strength in the bond, the other weakens it. Love empowers, attachment traps. Love is freedom chosen, back, attachment is fear reacting. Love also shows itself in consistency. Because it is a choice, it doesn't disappear when circumstances change. Love continues to show up in seasons of difficulty, not just seasons of ease. Back, it chooses to commit when life gets messy, when challenges arise, when the spark isn't as bright. Attachment cannot do this because it is reactive. The moment things get tough, attachment either panics or collapses by searching for immediate reassurance. Love holds steady while attachment wavers with every shift. Love proves itself in consistency of action. Attachment exposes itself in inconsistency of reaction. The foundation of one is stability. The foundation of the other is fear. To love is to be intentional with energy. Every day, you choose where to place your focus, how to respond, and what to build. Back, love directs that energy toward nurturing, supporting, and growing the bond. It doesn't happen automatically. It's a decision that requires presence and awareness. Attachment doesn't direct energy intentionally. It simply reacts to its environment. If it feels good, it clings. If it feels unsafe, it panics. Love gives with direction. Attachment consumes without thought. One uses energy to build, back, the other wastes energy in cycles of fear. Love fuels progress. Attachment fuels exhaustion. That's why love feels fulfilling while attachment feels draining. Love as a choice also means accountability. Back, you recognize that your actions matter and you don't hide behind excuses. Love takes ownership of mistakes, learns from them, and chooses to do better next time. Back, attachment does not accept responsibility because reaction does not pause long enough for reflection. It shifts blame, denies, or avoids the truth to protect itself from discomfort. Love chooses growth and accountability, back, while attachment reacts with defensiveness. Accountability strengthens love because it shows commitment to learning. Lack of accountability weakens attachment because it reinforces fear. Love matures, back. Attachment stays immature. Love evolves. Attachment repeats cycles. Even in the smallest moments, the difference is clear. Love is a choice when you decide to listen fully instead of being distracted. It is a choice when you show patience instead of irritation. It is a choice when you prioritize long-term growth over short-term satisfaction. Back. Attachment doesn't make those decisions. It simply reacts to whatever feels easiest. If it feels hurt, it lashes out. If it feels insecure, it clings tighter. Love uses small choices to build a strong foundation. Back, while attachment lets reactions slowly chip away at trust, love requires mindfulness, while attachment thrives on impulse. One builds endurance, the other drains energy. Ultimately, love being a choice means it grows with time because each decision adds to its strength. It becomes a conscious practice, something you actively nurture and sustain. It doesn't fade when excitement fades. Back, because it was never dependent on feelings alone. Attachment, because it is a reaction, weakens over time. It relies on intensity and reassurance, both of which eventually fade. Love chooses again and again, it back. No matter the circumstance, attachment reacts again and again, no matter the consequence. One is grounded in intentional action, the other in emotional reflex. That's why love endures, it back, while attachment collapses under its own weight. Love is built on a foundation of respect, a recognition of another person's individuality and freedom. When you love back, you understand that the other person is not an extension of you, but a whole being with their own desires, choices, and needs. Respect means honoring those differences and valuing them as strengths rather than threats. Attachment does not work this way because it is rooted in fear. Fear cannot tolerate differences. It interprets independence as danger and freedom as abandonment. Love trusts, attachment doubts. Love celebrates uniqueness. Attachment demands conformity. One says, I see you for who you are and accept it. The other says, be who I need you to be so I feel safe. Respect uplifts. Fear suffocates. Respect in love allows boundaries to exist without being questioned or resented. Healthy boundaries are not walls. They are bridges that define where one ends and the other begins. In fact, love understands that without boundaries, individuality is lost, and individuality is what makes connection meaningful. Attachment fears boundaries because it confuses them with rejection. To someone attached, back, space feels like abandonment and silence feels like neglect. But love interprets boundaries as trust because only those who feel secure can allow space. Fear cannot allow that space, that because it survives on constant reassurance. Love respects the balance between closeness and freedom. Attachment collapses the balance, turning it into dependency. When love is present, back, communication carries honesty and dignity. Love listens, not to respond, but to understand. It respects the other person's voice, even when it disagrees. Love can disagree without devaluing, back, and it can challenge without shaming. Attachment cannot hold that same space. It interrupts, defends, and manipulates because fear drives it to protect itself at all costs. Attachment hears what it wants to hear, back, while love listens for truth. Love respects silence as much as words. Attachment panics in silence and fills it with insecurity. Love strengthens communication by respecting the person behind the words. Attachment weakens it by reacting to fear behind the words. Respect in love creates trust, which becomes the foundation of stability. When trust is present, love doesn't need constant proof. It simply knows. It allows both people to live their lives fully, without suspicion or doubt. Attachment, on the other hand, cannot rest without proof. It asks, where are you? Who are you with? What are you doing? It becomes obsessive, driven by fear of betrayal. Love trusts because it respects the other person's integrity. Attachment doubts because it fears being left behind. Love gives peace. Attachment creates anxiety. One creates freedom and trust. The other creates tension and suspicion. Love builds safety. Attachment builds paranoia. Love also respects time, both in the relationship and in personal growth. It understands that everyone evolves at their own pace, and it doesn't rush or pressure. Respect means patience, allowing room for mistakes, lessons, and change. Attachment cannot be patient, back, because fear is always urgent. It wants reassurance now, commitment now, security now. It rushes because it cannot tolerate uncertainty. Love embraces time as part of the journey, knowing that growth takes patience. Attachment resents time because it feels like waiting for loss. One values the process, the other fears the process. Respect allows patience to flourish. Fear demands instant gratification. In love, respect shows up in small choices as much as in big ones. It is present when you consider another person's feelings before making decisions. It shows when you choose honesty instead of avoidance, kindness instead of cruelty. Respect honors the dignity of the relationship even in moments of anger or conflict. Attachment cannot show this kind of consistency because fear hijacks its reactions. When fear leads, backwards become sharp, actions become selfish, and respect disappears. Love maintains dignity in the smallest gestures. Attachment erodes dignity in the smallest insecurities. Respect creates stability one choice at a time, it back, while fear destroys it one reaction at a time. Respect in love also means acceptance. It is the ability to see flaws, imperfections, and weaknesses without judgment or the urge to control. Love understands that no one is perfect and does not demand perfection. It chooses to embrace both the light and the dark parts of another person. Attachment struggles here because fear magnifies flaws as threats. Back. It criticizes, manipulates, and tries to reshape the other person into a safer version. But love says, I see your imperfections and I still value you. Attachment says, I cannot rest until you change for me. Respect holds space for growth. Fear demands control. The strength of love lies in its ability to stand firm in respect, even when tested. Respect doesn't waver when emotions run high because it is anchored in principle, not reaction. Love knows that even in conflict, dignity must remain. Attachment, however, crumbles under stress. but allowing fear to dictate every move. Fear lashes out, disrespects, and wounds because it is trying to protect itself. Love is steady, attachment is unstable. Respect holds the line, fear crosses it back. Love remembers the humanity of the other person while attachment forgets it in desperation. One protects the bond, the other harms it. Respect creates an environment where both people feel safe enough to grow, explore, be authentic. In that safety, trust multiplies, confidence rises, and freedom expands. Fear cannot create this environment, it suffocates it. Fear makes authenticity impossible because it demands control and compliance. Respect empowers, fear diminishes. When a relationship is built on respect, it thrives under freedom instead of collapsing under pressure. Love stands tall in respect, giving both people the ability to be fully themselves. Attachment hides in fear, shrinking both people into versions that are less than they could be. Love elevates, fear restricts. The truth is simple. Relationships built on respect last, while those built on fear eventually fall apart. Fear can create intensity, but it cannot create stability. Respect creates trust, freedom, and strength, while fear only creates tension and fragility. Love thrives because it stands on respect, choosing dignity over control, trust over suspicion, freedom over possession. Attachment fails because it stands on fear, reacting instead of choosing, grasping instead of giving, suffocating instead of uplifting. If you want real love, you must build it on respect, not on fear. Because when respect is the foundation, everything else can grow strong. But when fear is the foundation, nothing truly survives.